I am 81 years old, and for 9 minutes I no longer belong to this world. On a Tuesday afternoon, on the cold floor of my kitchen, my heart stopped, and I left my old tent behind. What you fear most, the end, the silence, the judgment, is not what was waiting for me on the other side. I discovered a truth that shatters the illusions of this world. We spend our lives trying to be gods to our children, using guilt to beg for a love that never truly fills us. In the gaze of Jesus, I understood that the love you demand will never satisfy you. Only the love you give freely, expecting nothing in return, is what makes you eternal. I died as a bitter collector and was reborn as a safe harbor. I do not ask you to watch this as entertainment. I ask you to stay, to listen with an open soul, and allow this testimony to heal your resentment. I invite you to join this journey of faith by subscribing to our channel and leaving your prayer request or a thought in the comments. Let us turn this moment into communion. Now listen to what death taught me about life. 81 years is a long time to carry your own body. Sometimes, when the sun sets and the house sinks into that honey-colored dimness, I feel like my skin has become worn fabric, an old tent that the wind of time insists on carrying away. We spend our whole lives tightening the ropes, driving the stakes, trying to keep everything standing. But the truth is, in the end, the canvas grows thin, and the light from the other side begins to shine through the holes. I was not an easy woman. I need to confess that to you, who took a moment to listen to me. Age takes away our teeth, but it seems to sharpen our tongue. I lived in an apartment too big for one person, surrounded by picture frames of children and grandchildren who seemed to have forgotten the way home. And what did I do with that longing? I did not turn it into prayer. I turned it into ammunition. I had an altar in that house. It was not made of wood with saints or candles. It was my landline phone on the bedside table. That cold plastic object was where I sacrificed my peace every single day. I would sit there on the edge of the bed, staring at the dark screen, waiting for a light, for a ring, for a sign that I still mattered. And when they didn't call, the poison would rise. I would rehearse what I would say. You know how it is. Those phrases we use to hurt the ones we love, just to see if they still miss us. If you don't come see me now, don't bother coming to cry at my coffin. I would say that inside, but on the outside I would call. I would call with a deliberately shaky voice, pretending a weakness I didn't yet have, using my loneliness like a noose to pull them closer. I wanted love, but I only knew how to demand tribute. I acted as if I were the god of their lives, demanding a devotion I knew deep down I did not deserve. It was on a Tuesday afternoon. The sky was heavy gray, as if the clouds were carrying lead. I was in the kitchen. I remember the smell of coffee I was about to brew, the sound of the kettle beginning to whistle on the stove. I was angry that day. My oldest son had promised to visit on Sunday and never showed up. Bitterness was the fuel that kept my heart beating, or so I thought back then. I reached out to grab the porcelain cup, the one with blue flowers I had received on my wedding anniversary, and suddenly the world tilted. It was not an ordinary pain. It felt like a hand of ice had pierced my ribs and squeezed my heart with all the force in the universe. The air vanished. You know when you try to breathe and it feels like oxygen is turned into mercury? Heavy, dense, impossible to swallow. The kettle began to scream. That sharp, piercing sound felt like it was drilling through my ears from the inside out. I tried to hold on to the sink, but my fingers, those same fingers that dialed so many numbers demanding attention, no longer had the strength to hold on to anything. The cup fell. I heard it shatter on the linoleum floor. I saw the white and blue shards scatter, and in a flash of clarity I thought, that's my life, broken, on the kitchen floor. My knees gave out. The floor rose to meet me. I lay there, my face pressed against the cold surface, staring under the table. The last thing I saw, the last image my tired eyes captured of this world, was the telephone in the living room, far down the hallway. It was silent, indifferent. It just sat there, dark and quiet, while life slipped through my fingers like fine sand. I tried to scream, but my voice no longer belonged to me. The whistle of the kettle faded, softer and softer, as if it were retreating into a tunnel. The kitchen began to darken at the edges, like an old photograph being consumed by fire. I felt one last spasm, one last effort of that old tent, trying to stay upright, and then silence. But it was not the bitter silence of waiting for a phone call. It was absolute, velvety silence. The rope snapped. The stakes came loose. The tent finally fell, and I simply slipped out. You know that moment when the weight of the world just lifts. I was there on the kitchen floor, but at the same time I was no longer that. I saw Maria lying on the linoleum, that tired woman with a coffee-stained apron and hands hardened by age, looked like nothing more than old clothing, a costume left in the corner of a dressing room after the show ends. And the strangest thing, I felt no fear, not even a trace. The pain in my chest, gone. The icy hand that squeezed me into unconsciousness, gone. The air I couldn't breathe, I didn't need it anymore. I was breathing something different, something that didn't enter through the nose, but filled the soul. It was as if I had spent 81 years submerged in muddy water and suddenly emerged into pure crystal air, where every breath was a sip of life. I floated. Yes, that's the only word that fits. Like a dandelion seed carried by a gentle spring breeze. I saw the ceiling of my kitchen, the dust on top of the cabinets I could no longer reach, and I saw my phone, that little black plastic idol on the table. From up there it looked so ridiculous, so small. How could I have spent so many days, so many hours of my life serving that silence? How could I have let a wire and a dark screen decide whether I was loved or not? At that moment, all my bitterness felt like a heavy bag I had finally been allowed to drop by the side of the road. I began to drift away. The apartment walls became transparent, as if made of smoke or fading memory. I passed through the roof, through the gray Tuesday sky and the leaden clouds, and for the first time in decades, I did not feel the cold of winter in my bones. I felt warmth, not the warmth of the sun on skin, but a warmth from within, as if a fireplace had been lit at the center of my being, burning away every scratch and wound. There was a glow, At first it looked like a distant star at the end of a very long corridor, but as I moved closer, though I was not walking, I was being carried by a current of peace. That star opened like a flower of white fire. It was not a light that blinded or hurt the eyes. It was a light that invited, a light that seemed to have a voice, a silent voice saying, "Come, Maria, come see what we have prepared." We spend our whole lives afraid of the darkness of death, but what I saw had nothing of darkness. What we leave behind, this world of demands, loneliness, and silent phones, was the real darkness. Death, for me, was the moment someone finally turned on the light and said the nightmare was over.